We're currently the oldest continuously operated MMORPG out there. It's roughly 25 million euros revenue, around 10 million profit that we make per year.
Do you think this is something that can be realistically achieved by small indie teams today? This is a conversation with Benjamin Zuckerer, a part of the management team at CipSoft, a game studio that makes MMOs and has grown to over 100 people in size. Benjamin has been a long-time member of the Tibia team and represents the company externally, while also steering new projects in-house.
The first server where you could actually play was in January 1997.
And it's still under active development today.
We've actually got a Guinness World Record for being the first MMORPG on a mobile phone.
That is absolutely crazy and raises the question, how the hell did they manage to keep it alive for so long?
There's actually no real MMORPGs out there that proved that creating a second part enlarges your community.
And I'm very curious to hear that story, hopefully in detail now, because we have a lot of time.
I actually joined CipSoft in 2007, which is a few years after the creation of the game, of Tibia. Our four founders, when they actually started, they started the game in 1995. They didn't actually want to build a commercial game at first, so it was a hobby. The main idea they had back then was they'd been playing Ultima single player on PC and games like that. The internet had come up back then. It was like you had internet at universities, not at home. They thought, wouldn't it be cool if you could play games like this on the internet? And back then there were only MUDs, so multi-user dungeons. Games that you could play with a text interface. So you'd say like, use sword, go north, go west, go east, and you'd move through there. And they were quite big, and that was multiplayer already. So you were playing with other players, but it was all text-based, and also there was no graphical output or import or whatever. And so the basic idea was to create a game where you had a graphical interface and you could play an RPG online with other players. And when they kind of started doing it, there were no books. There was nothing on it. So there was one single book on TCP/IP, and that was it. That was the only book you could get anywhere. And there was no things in the internet that you could look for, no tutorials, no ChatGPT, no websites, no nothing. So they basically had to learn it all on their own, right?
This were the very, very early times where there were no game engines.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. It was all self-written. Yes. The first server where you could actually play was in January 1997. That's when the server went live on the university network, on the university server. And they had the server standing there, and they had to work at the university so that the university would allow them to run the server there. So one of the founders had to work as a IT help guy and do jobs for his professor, and in exchange he was allowed to run the server there.
I see. Okay, so we have a rough image in mind for which kind of time we're talking about. So you said 4 founders, and the idea was just, let's make basically some kind of text adventure that you can play
with
online.
A graphical interface,
though. Graphical interface. I see.
Yes, exactly. And that was in 1997. So if you go back your gaming timeline, what was running on your computers back then, it was very, very limited, right? So there wasn't very much that you could do on computers gaming-wise. There were some cool games out already, but it was all single-player, obviously, and a few multiplayer games, but nothing that was on the internet because there was no games there yet. And when the game came out first, so actually Yahoo created a own category. So back then you used Yahoo. Google wasn't there yet, so you had to use Yahoo or AOL, which was big back then as well, America Online. And players would find the game through categories. So you could find things through categories. And when the game took off, Yahoo created a own category for online games because there was no word for it yet. So they weren't called MMORPGs yet. They were actually called GMUDs. That's like the beginning of the genre. It was a GMUD, a graphical multi-user dungeon. That's how it all started.
Okay. So did Tibia essentially help define that whole wave or genre? Or how?
Yeah. I mean, there were like multiple teams worldwide that had a similar or the same idea. So Ultima Online, the team had, they basically had the same idea and created a game as well in the same time span. They came out a little bit later, but they were a commercial title already. So that was a commercial team back with money and everything. And this was for students basically creating a game and pushing that out and seeing what happens. And as I said, at that time, they didn't think of it being a success and, being viable to have a company around it. And that it took quite a while until the company then actually was founded. So 1997 game comes out and they were still studying. And when they finished their studies in 2001, their parents would say like, so what are you going to do? Are you going to get a good job with payment because you studied? And they'd say, no, we'd like to try this game thing, right? Mm-hmm. And their parents went like, that's a very bad idea. It's a really, a really bad idea.
I mean, parents still say that now, and I can only imagine how it was back then, yeah.
Yes, especially because 2001, you might remember there was a big crisis back then. So the .NET bubble burst back then. So you had all these internet companies that were hyped and getting VC money and building products that weren't there, and that whole bubble burst in 2001. So back then, the whole internet, everything that you did in there was basically paid with advertisement money. And the whole market collapsed from basically one day to the next. It was gone. So the classic thing you would have done, have a website and have ads on it, and then people would come on your website, play the game, and look at the ads, and then you get money through that. It didn't exist anymore when they founded the company. So what they had to do is they had to find a new business model as well, in addition to founding a company and launching the game. And so what they did, and I think that is it's still an advice that I often give to newcomers. Something they did. They sat down and they said, "We'll do this. We'll found the company and we'll give the game a chance, and we'll give us 2 years. And in that time, we have to earn a certain amount of money per person. And if that doesn't work, then we'll quit and we'll go and take those great paid consultant jobs."
Also a great strategy to get parents on your side if you're like,
absolutely,
we will try this for 2 years and here are the goals and the deadlines, and if it doesn't work, then we'll do whatever you want.
The motivation is definitely higher to support you. That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good thing to have a plan B and to also not underestimate the effort that you have to put in it, and to also to be honest to yourself. This is the amount of time I'm putting in it, and my time is worth something, right?
Yeah.
I could be working somewhere else, and I could be being paid for it, or I could do something else, and if I sink in hundreds of hours and then at the end I get some money, right? It might work out, I might get some money. But if you divide it by the hours, it might be a really bad rate. And you should keep that in mind. I mean, at the end, it's also totally fine if something is a hobby. I mean, that's cool. I mean, if you start and you do games and you say, I'm going to try it out and I just want to have a game on Steam or something or on my phone and show my friends and say, hey, I made this. And you push it out and a few people download it, because that's what's going to happen nowadays. If the most viable outcome is that perhaps 100 people download your game and that's it. And nothing more will happen. and you kind of need to be okay with that if it's a hobby. And if it's not a hobby, then you should treat it like a business, like a job, and not like a hobby. Right.
So to go back to the main story, they did exactly. So your founders did exactly that. They were like, we will have 2 years to make this amount of money, and it seems like they
made it. Yes, that's right.
Made it.
That's right. So what they did was they had to find a new business model. So what they did was they had a community of players playing already, and they didn't want to take anything away from them. So basically what they said is, you can play this part for free, and everything that we will add on in future will require a subscription fee. Basically a freemium model, which didn't exist back then yet. That was completely new. And they launched that into the game, and everything that was added was in the paid section, and everything that was there already was in the free section. A lot of people were willing to pay money for it. They also did surveys with the players back then and asked them how much they could charge for it, because they had no idea what you could charge for a game like that. And that took quite a while to then take off, but after the 2 years, there was enough there. And I think what was one of the most interesting things, so until then, it's just these 4 people, right? It's just 4 guys that have created this. And at some stage, they noticed we can't handle all the things we have to do just with us 4. So we can't program a live dev game and do customer support and do the business and all those things at once. It just doesn't work. So they had to hire somebody. And the first person they looked for was a customer support agent to answer all the emails that came in from players. Yeah. Because before that, what they did is, they had a problem, the server was down or something, and then hundreds of emails would come in, and so they sat down and they would say, like, okay, so what can I do? We can answer all those emails, right? Or we can fix the bug. So they deleted all the emails and fixed the bug. Yeah. And you can do that because, or back then you could do it because expectations weren't high. People didn't know what an online service is yet, and the expectations weren't that high. People were just glad that something like that existed, and there was no advertisement. People just came on their own because it was so new. So the first person they hired was a customer support representative, and he's still here at the company. He's still customer support, but he's the lead now of the team.
Nice. Are the founders still at Cip? By the way, is it CipSoft or CipSoft?
CipSoft, yeah. CipSoft. I'll tell you the story about why it's called that way. There's an interesting story as well, and it actually has to do with this founding phase.
Okay.
Right. Now, from the 4 founders, 3 are active in the company, and 1 is outside of the company, but they all still hold their equal shares on the company.
Awesome. I see.
Right. So the company, when was founded, they also needed a name. Now, before that, they had been making one game together already, which is called Strike, and we still play it once a year. So we meet up and we play the game once a year, which is cool. It was each player controls 4 tanks and has a headquarter, and you have a randomly generated map with cities in it, and you can conquer the cities with your tanks. And then you fight against each other, and the goal is to eliminate every other player in the game. So It was a multiplayer game. It was really cool, actually, and we still like playing it. And their pseudonym that they had back then was Cip Productions. And when they founded the company, they wanted to have something that could do other things as well, so they made Cip Soft out of it. Now, why is it called Cip? So it's called Cip because the university had a program where they spent money to build up rooms with computers in it where students could work on computers, because not everybody had computers back then. And this program was called Computer Invest Program. So the rooms had a sign outside with CIP on it, and that's where the company name comes from. Or as our players would say, completely incompetent programmers. So they shared a flat with a student, and they had one room in there, and the student lived there actually, and they only came to work. And she was so kind that she cooked for them sometimes, because she felt a bit sorry for them, that they were like nerds and hanging around in the room just working and coding day and night basically. And then it took quite a while until they actually moved out. So they started in one room basically, and before that it was just a basement, and people working at home and then syncing with changing source code on disks and PCs with each other. So old school. There was no Git.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, I haven't even thought about that. No Git. Like, oh, no.
Right, no GitHub, no Git. You had to do these things by hand. You had to talk with each other a lot more. There was version control of course, but you couldn't like change it over the internet because you didn't have internet at the beginning. So it was often sharing files on disk with each other.
You're making an online game, but you don't have internet.
Yes, because it was so new, right? So it's pretty cool.
Oh my God. Okay, that sounds interesting to say the least.
After 2001, so the game starts growing, and it's making money, right? And the company is growing as well. And
so the company's growing means they're hiring more developers maybe, or more people.
Well, actually, a technician was like a content guy was the second guy. He's also still at the company.
Content guy makes content for the game.
Yes, exactly. He basically builds the map and the NPCs and writes the lore and the text and the quests and things like that. That's what they do at our company. I mean, you know this, but perhaps not everybody who's listening knows this. So there is no clear definition of jobs in the gaming industry, and basically every company handles it a little bit different than other companies. Yeah. There are a few like concepts that are very similar at all companies, but the definitions of what you do at which company, they vary. And when we say a content designer and another company, that might be a level designer, it might be an environment artist. It could be multiple things. It sort of depends on what the company puts into the job definition and what they say we want the people to do exactly. And titles vary quite a lot in the games industry.
Yeah, I see.
Right. So the company's growing. Yes, they're hiring people. And so I joined in 2007. The company was about 20 people large when I joined the company.
Okay. And what did they bring you in for?
So I came in as a product manager for one of the newer games they had. So they had Tibia, which was the PC MMORPG. And in 2003, they launched a mobile MMORPG running on mobile phones. So the first game of that ran on a Siemens C35. I don't know if you remember that. It has a monochrome display. It's running on Java. So they had a full-fledged MMORPG running on mobile phones. There weren't internet flat rates there yet for phones in Europe, and you still paid per kilobyte to get the dimension of how early this was, right? And we've actually got a Guinness World Record for being the first MMORPG on a mobile phone for that.
Wow. So it's essentially like running an MMO like on a calculator or something.
Yes,
that's sort of how I imagine it. It's like
yes, and it feels like that. Yes, and so that game they had a deal with the telecom at the beginning, and then Symbian came for mobile phones, which was an interesting thing. So that was a more modern operating system, and then there was at some stage later the iPhone came and the smartphones came, and the whole market exploded, right? So the game was there already before that market had existed, and the game was mainly successful in Southeast Asia. So what CipSoft does is perhaps to understand how this works. We just put the games online, and then we just see what happens. And so there's no plan. There was no marketing. We had no budgets that we spent. There's no outside investors. There's no publisher. There's nothing. We just throw the games into back then on a website. And then with the mobile game, you did need stores, but so you threw it out on the market and you just look what happens and who downloads it where, and if somewhere more people download it, and then you go with that.
I see. So you came in as a product manager for that, for the very
mobile
early
game.
mobile game.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
I see.
Right. So I had a technical background. I'd been working IT, doing system administration for a large company with multiple locations around Europe, with SAP and lots of customers where you go and look at processes in the company and then optimize things for IT, which was interesting. Yes, of course. And it paid well. I had learned it. It was I was up to a career there, and then I had the offer to switch, and so I went to my parents, as you do, right? And I said, so I got this offer to work at CipSoft and do a product manager for games. And my parents said, why would you do that, right? You've got a good paid job, you've got a career in front of you. It's all good, right? Why? Why are you going to a young company? It's it's all very insecure. Will they be making money next year? Who knows, right? And but the decision was very easy for me. So I said, no, of course I'm going to do this, right? And I went in there, and since then, not one year has been boring. Not one day has been boring. Every day is different. Every day has new challenges. There's nothing in creating games that is predictable. And I think that is a great plus for making games. It just doesn't get boring.
I see. So can you paint a bit of a picture? What did a project manager do back then? Was it like people management, or was it technical jobs? What was it like at the beginning?
It's like wearing all hats at once. So product managers at our company, the first thing is they carry the responsibility for the strategy of the game. So They decide what is going to come into the game, how it's going to be made. They also carry the responsibility that the game runs as the online game, the service, that it's reachable, that it works. They back then they also did all the updates. We did the protocol definitions, and we supervised the whole team working on the game. So
how the hell? Sorry if I interrupt there, but how the hell do you secure a job like that? Like, it's like, we need somebody to manage this. Let's just bring in somebody who knows something roughly around this topic.
Back then it was more like, do we think a person can, is he going to be able to fulfill these things? Is he sharp? Can he switch between things quickly? Because that is one of the main feats you need, is that you can switch between different topics very, very quickly. And are you confident enough to like tackle something that is bigger and larger than what your current knowledge is?
I see. How did they find you?
We had known each other for a while. We went to the same school. And we knew each other a bit, and I'd meet up with them from time to time. And because I was working at a company, and I had, I was going to all these other companies in Germany, looking at their IT and consulting them, and they had never worked anywhere else. So from time to time we would meet, and they would tell me about the company growth and how things are going, and asking things like, do you think we should scale quicker? Should we hire more people?
Yeah.
And so we talk about things like that. And I could give them advice that they had never got because they had never worked anywhere else.
So you have seen more companies from the inside than...
Yes.
Okay, so that's valuable, yeah.
Yeah.
I see.
And I think that's also what made them interested. And when the position came up and they decided to hire people, they thought of me and went like, okay, he obviously knows processes, he knows IT, which is not unimportant if you are doing an online game, that you understand IT. I hope I didn't say too many stupid things, as was probably they wouldn't have asked me. And but obviously it was like, it was a complete new field for me as well, and I started at zero with most of it. I was not I'm not a learned programmer. I can program, but definitely not as good as a programmer, right? I have an understanding of art, but I'm not an artist. So I'm more a generalist in many topics. And there's definitely tons of people that are a lot better in every field than me. I think what makes this job and this role important is that you can speak with everybody from the different lines of craft, and you understand their needs, and you can formulate things in a way that they understand it. Because often if you have programmers talking with graphic artists, if they're not technical enough, they just talk past each other. And you need a basic understanding of how every aspect of a game works, so that you can really collaborate properly.
Yeah.
And in bigger companies, that's what basically product managers or producers or people like that, they make sure that this happens with specialists that are not very good in the other topics in the game production line.
So your job is sort of to glue the entire team together, and
yes, and to give the direction, right? So it's like a mix of a creative director, a producer, and a technician.
Are there any fun stories from that time? Like, what were those early times like for you?
There were a lot of very interesting things, because I mean, this was the first time I actually worked in this industry. I was new there, so and also in game creation and running a service and everything. So yeah, I made a lot of mistakes, and so did the people on the team. So one of the most important rules that we had for ourselves was, it's always fine to make a mistake. It's necessary, actually. The important thing is you don't do it twice.
Okay.
You shouldn't make the same mistake twice. You can have multiple other ones, right? But you shouldn't have the same one twice. And so one thing that is really dangerous in MMORPGs is it's called duping. It's something where players can basically use your protocol or the game or whatever to duplicate items in the game. And with that, they can obviously create wealth in the game that they were not supposed to get, progress. And
this such a common problem that it
Yes.
has an official term? Or
Yes, absolutely.
So is this something other
No,
MMOs struggle with as well?
all MMORPGs have this issue, and all of them had it already in their histories.
Why is this? It doesn't sound like such a difficult problem. Can you explain why it's?
It sounds like it's something that you should be able to have under control, but it happens very easily when you program that you run into these issues. So I'll give you an example from Tibia or Tibia Me that basically work the same. So in these games, it's like that you have squares where people run around, so tiles where the characters run around in the world, and you can place items onto the floor. And the moment you place an item onto the floor, this item exists on the floor. So it was in your backpack before, and then you put it onto the floor, and now it is on the floor.
Yeah.
Now I'll just give you a very, very easy example of something that could happen. So you take the item and you put it onto the floor, and while you put it onto the floor, you send the command to the server that you are putting it on the floor again. Right? So now 2 commands arrive at the server and say, place the item on the floor, please. And the server says, great, I'll put an item on the floor. Great, I'll put an item on the floor. Now, obviously, you should check this in the server if the user has the item and it's gone and it's now on the floor. But and there's hundreds of places like that where you can make mistakes. And oops, then you've got multiple items. Another very easy one would be you finish a quest and you go to the NPC, and the NPC gives you a reward item. Now, you need a check in there that makes sure that you cannot repeatedly go to this NPC and give back the quest and get the reward item again and again and again. And this mistake is made very easily because it's just a check that someone who's designing the quest forgets, and then you got a duping bug. And those are the nice ones still, right? Because they are limited. So it gets more ugly if your storage duplicates or things like that. And that creates a lot of damage, and it creates a lot of manual work to fix, because you obviously don't just want to reset everything for multiple days, because it takes a while until you discover that people are abusing this. So what happens is someone discovers it, and the first thing he does is he checks if he can replicate it. So he tries to do it again. Then he goes, oh, wow, cool, this is working. Awesome. I'll create a second account. It's the first thing I do. I move one valuable item over there, and then I start duplicating it as shit, right? And then I make a lot of money with that. And that's the first thing you do, but you don't tell anyone. And so you can't see it, basically. It goes under the radar because it doesn't hit the economy yet. Everything's quite cool still. Then he tells 1 or 2 trusted friends, right? He goes, hey, got to tell you something. I've kept it for myself right now, but I can't anymore. It's just too good, right? You're a really good friend. You want the profit of it as well. They tell their guild, we won't tell anyone else because we can profit from it, and we're going to have a great advantage with this. But then it sort of spreads. And at some stage, there's an honest player usually that sends an email and says, hey, do you guys know that something in your game is happening that shouldn't be happening, right? And back then, you did not have tons of data that you could analyze, right? It was there were log files, and you would have to look into the log files and then really check in the log files if something's happening. And fixing a problem that was very expensive, very labor intensive.
Because you can't just roll back, because that would hurt a lot of the other players.
Yes, the honest players all get hurt for a group of people that had fun. And so one of the most important things I learned was that, so ultimately somebody did this commit that caused this problem. So you can go into the repository, you can do a blame, and you'll find out who exactly it was, right? It's a very German thing to do. Is first of all, find out who caused it, right?
Then fix it.
Then fix it, right? Which is actually a good thing to do, because this person might have more memory about what he did in that part of code than other people, right? So it's actually a good piece of advice to actually find out who caused it first. Then the second rule is it's the 10 rules of debugging, actually, right? Which most programmers will be familiar with. Is you need to be able to understand what is happening, as well as you're not fixing the actual problem. You're just fixing symptoms, and you might not actually be fixing the cause of the problem. So you have to really understand what is causing the problem before you can fix it. And that can take a while that you find out what the actual cause is. Then you need to replicate it. Then you need to fix it. And you need to test the fix. And then you need to push it. And then you still got all this damage that you need to clean up by hand. So you have to open user files. You have to edit them, which is erroneous. You can make very easy copy-paste mistakes and things like that there. It takes time, all these things, right? So what I learned back then is, I think that is, especially if you work with teams, a very important lesson. So you got this programmer, you know it was his fault, he caused this problem, and usually he's newer on the server side because if you've done it a few times, you know what to look for, and you're not prone to make this mistake anymore. But so someone who basically did this mistake the first time runs into it, and you sit down, you can see all the servers are down, you can show him how much money we're losing right now because the game is not running, no one can play, no one can pay, no one, you have to compensate people, it's costing money. And so the first reaction is people get really anxious and worried, right? So they sit there and they go, oh my God, what have I done? I just did this small change. I didn't think that this was going to have a big impact, right? And that's the point where we then tell them that it's totally fine to make mistakes like this, even if they cost money, but we as a team now have to fix it together. That's the important part now. You need to understand it had an impact, and that's important that you understand that what you did had an impact. If someone else just cleans it up, and
then you do it again next week. Yeah.
Exactly, right. You're not going to learn very much from it because you don't understand the severity of this issue. But once you've gone through this pain of cleaning it up, the next time you're going to sit down and you're going to go like, ooh, right, I really need to be careful when I handle items, when I do this, when I do that. And it's nothing that can be taught beforehand. I can't go and say, hey, Jonas, you really need to be careful when you do item handling and depot handling. And you'll go, yeah, sure, sure, I'll be careful, right? But not until you've gone through that pain, you'll actually realize what it means to be careful in these areas on the server.
Yeah. And it's not like the learning effect is only for that one developer. It's also like all of the other developers also see which effects this can have.
Yes. Exactly. So there are a lot of very interesting stories from that time. So another one that we had, or is a general problem with online gaming, is we've been under attack since day one. So our servers are being attacked with DDoS attacks. We have people that do social engineering with the data centers to gain access or physical access on the servers to steal code or program parts or things like that.
Holy crap!
There were really crazy stories around that. There's an Open Tibia variant out there, which goes back to a social engineering hack in a data center where someone managed to convince the data center that he is an employee of CipSoft and gained access on the server, and then copied the binary, and they used that binary to reverse engineer it and create Open Tibia.
No way. So that's actually something you have to worry about when you make online games.
Yes.
Do you think this is a problem for online games in particular? Probably, right?
It makes it very complicated. The differences between a single-player game and an online game is, the first thing is, in an online game, you can't cheat as much. So in a single-player game, you can cheat the heck out of everything, right? So if you imagine you've got a first-person game, you're just going to show the arms, the weapon, perhaps a foot, something like that, and the rest of the character's just not there.
Yeah.
As soon as you have another person that can log in, he can see you. So you can't cheat anymore. You can't have arms going longer and legs going longer and things like that to just, it looks great in the single-person game, and you can look at it and it's all good. But if you look at it from the outside, you go, oh my God, what's wrong with this character? You can look into every direction of the game. You can run wherever you want to. People can pile on each other and reach areas that you didn't think they could reach. People will use the protocol to send things with bots and to gain, everything they can automate and where they can get a little bit more power for themselves out of the system. they'll do it.
I think the thing is that people do that with single-player games and they do it with multiplayer games.
That's right.
Like
but with a single-player game, they just ruin the fun for themselves, which is cool, right? Because they don't have to. They could just play it and as it was sought and have that experience. And they can also cheat and, then win and say, hey, I beat the game because, I basically cheated. But they're not ruining the fun for anyone else. In an online game, you ruin the fun for other people. And that's the problem there.
Like that people go so far as to try and gain like physical access to the data centers and servers. That's a bit more wild than I would have imagined for like a simple online game or something.
And also DDoS attacks. So they attack the data centers until the data centers are offline. So we were once chucked out of a data center after it had been offline for a week or so. And the data center, which is really bad sign for a data center. So if a data center ever does that to you, that's a bad data center, actually.
Okay.
Because that means the data center can't protect its customers in the internet. And they kicked us out. So we weren't allowed to run our servers in the data center anymore.
And they're like, you're too much trouble.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. But I mean, what does that tell other customers, right? So it says exactly that, right? I'm just a good customer until trouble comes or there's something that's more difficult, and then they just cancel my contract, which we have with them, right? And they just cancel it with actually there's no reason and no legal reason, but you have to find solutions. And so and online games, it's they run non-stop. It's 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. They run the whole time. So if you imagine how much thought you have to put into the software, it's not allowed to crash. The game server is not allowed to crash. It has to have performance. It has to, handle hundreds of servers and connections at the same time. The grade of programming knowledge to create something that compared to an application running on one device, it's a lot more complicated. Obviously, it's not rocket science. So most of the parts are, if you look at them, it's everyone is cooking with water. It's not like it's like a trade secret how to do these things. It's just that it's a lot more things you have to do so that you can actually run a game online. The whole infrastructure you need for it, the services you need around it to make it work, it's just complex. It's just a lot of things that you need.
All right. I think it's time to advance the storyline a little bit.
Right.
So you're here doing product management. The company's growing. You're like a 20+ people team at this point. You're working on a mobile version, like the very, very old smartphones.
Exactly.
It's not smartphones. It's more actual mobile phones.
Symbian and Java phones. Yes.
How does it go from there?
Right. So we'd always been working on new games and in very different genres as well. So we always understood ourselves as a company that innovates and that tries to create something that is interesting and new, and not just copy something and create the same thing again. So that's one of the reasons there was never a second MMORPG or a Tibia 2. There's also another very interesting reason why there's no Tibia 2. So there's actually no real MMORPGs out there that proved that creating a second part enlarges your community. They actually have a very big risk of splitting their community between two games. So a part will remain with the old game that they love, and a part will go to the new game, and then now you've halved your communities and moved them to two different games, basically.
Because people invest so much time into these games that it's very difficult to make the move to the new one.
Yes. And obviously as a developer, you go like, we'll do everything better the second time round, and it's going to be so much cooler and nicer. But it's usually not what your audience really wants to have. So just imagine Blizzard would make a World of Warcraft 2. The expectations, you can't meet them. It's not possible, right? So that's one of the reasons we never made a second part. But we were making other games and trying out things, and there were really crazy things that we did. But ultimately, they all failed. So they didn't find a market out there, which you need to have an actual innovation. So as long as your great idea doesn't find a market, it's not an innovation. It's just a good idea that failed.
Okay, so how many products were you juggling then? So you had the original Tibia and then the Tibia mobile.
Exactly. And then we always had one new thing that we were working on for a long time. And the company was still growing. So like the peak time for Tibia user-wise was 2009, 2010. And that's where all big MMORPGs have their peak.
Okay.
And since then, they all go down in numbers, which has various reasons. One is that the game companies understood how botting works and could differentiate between real players and bots and get rid of bots in games and things like that. And back then, that was not possible. So they basically inflated numbers a bit.
Okay.
But what all the companies also have in common is that they all monetized a lot better. And that's not only because they added things to the games that players can buy. It's mainly because their audience turned older, right? So a lot of people started this when they were kids, and now they've got jobs and have money, and they still want to play this game, but they don't have the amount of time anymore. So they're willing to spend some money to basically compete with other players as well. I think that is the most simple way you can explain free to play to someone who doesn't know how the concept works, right? So when you're young, you have time, and you just throw in your time, but you don't have money. And
so all the people that used to throw in their time
now have money.
Throw in their money.
They're grown-ups, right? They're grown-up people now,
okay.
and they have jobs and all these things. And
okay.
But
why are there no new players?
There are new players as well, but it's just compared to a single-player title, the big difference is that we have players that have been playing for decades. So we actually have players that have been playing since the very beginning, and they're still playing the game right now, and it's nearly 30 years now.
Wow. And you have been continuously updating the game for 30 years, essentially.
Yes, exactly.
And when we open the game now, it's still playable, it's still being updated.
Yes.
And that's absolutely wild. Like, are there any other MMORPGs that have been up for that long, or
no? We're currently the oldest continuously operated MMORPG out there. There are a few others that were. There's one that was older than us, but they had a break in between. And then you've got Ultima Online, but they launched a little bit behind us. And then there's games like RuneScape, but they're a bit younger already, right? So no, we're gonna celebrate our 30th birthday soon with the game. And yes, that's crazy. If you think about that, you've got a game that has been played over 3 decades, and a lot of people that come to the company now and join our company, they're younger than the game. So the game existed before they were born, and exactly. See, if you
that's crazy.
You just sit there and you realize that in the interview, right? So people say like, I was born 1999, and you go like, oh, cool, yeah, the game was there 2 years already then.
That's wild. So you were talking about your philosophy of not making updates, like you're not making Tibia 2, you're making, you'd rather make something new. So you're working on other projects on the side that don't really manage.
But the largest part of the company always worked on Tibia. I mean, that's pretty clear, right? So most of the resources go in there.
Okay. So just trying to future-proof, maybe get some extra legs.
I mean, as a company, you sort of sit there and you look at the numbers, right? And no one would have dreamt that this goes the way it went, and the game still runs and is actually stronger now than it ever was after 30 years.
Wow.
You'd sit there and you look at the numbers and you go like, oh, okay, we should definitely have another game out there so that we have a security line if something happens with the first one. And you just want that double safe net as an entrepreneur. You don't want to feel if something goes wrong, that's it, and we have to fire everyone and close the company down.
Yeah.
So you're always going to work on a second field, a second product, something that keeps the company alive over time. And so we also did that, but we weren't very successful in it. And over the time, we tried a lot of different things. So we tried bottom-up approaches. We tried top-down approaches. We tried ideas from people. We tried different genres. There are a lot of things that we tried out in different, and they're all called innovation processes in our company. So we had multiple of these over the.
Were you looking like for very wide selection of different projects, or was it only MMO online?
No, it was super wide. It had to be online. It had to be online. That was the only restriction there was. And back in the time, the first idea was like, we'll have multiple ideas of people that post in ideas, and then we'll like value them. And if there's something cool there, we'll create a team and they'll just start making it. That was like the first idea. And I mean, to be honest, there was not much theory about game innovation back then when we did these things. There was like a lot of stuff in production manufacturing, like companies that build physical products and how they innovate. And so the concept that you'll stumble over very quickly is stage gate processes, which is basically you have a gate with certain rules, and the idea has to pass this gate or it will get killed. And then there's a stage again, and that's where they have to build something or create something that is defined. Then it goes into a gate, gets evaluated again by other people, and they then kill it again. And it's always about killing it quickly, right? So if you think about an idea, and I mean, I've looked at your videos and they're really great about how to find an idea. And the main idea is to evaluate the critical part of your idea as quickly as possible. And if it fails, you're happy that you didn't pursue it and you just go to the next thing. That's to fail quickly.
Yeah. I see. That's a very interesting way to describe it. It's like a different frame, but very similar in a way. I see.
Yes. But now the one thing is you do this with yourself or with a very small team. And the other thing is you're doing this with a company. Yeah. There's a lot of different things in motion and ideas, and where people want to pull the direction of projects and ideas, and that makes it a lot more difficult to have focus and to kill something that's not working. That's why these gates then exist in bigger companies, because the people working on these things usually don't kill them. So, they just won't kill it. They'll just continue. And you need an external gate that basically looks at it and says, we're sorry, we're killing your baby. Right? Yeah. So most of our ideas were related about that. And then there were different approaches of how the initial ideas sort of come up. So we had a pitch process where people would write a one page about the idea, like a high concept. Then they had one where they built prototypes. They had 3 people had time to create a prototype in 6 months. That also didn't lead to really much. There was one game that was created out of a prototype. So they actually went in production and created a game, but that failed as well. Over the time, there was a very long process of failed game development approaches. And we sit and talk a lot about why is this not working, right? Why can't we create a new game?
Interesting. Okay.
Right? So you got a very successful game running, making a lot of money, and you got a lot of people in the company building this game. And what we kind of realized is that it's a very different trade to continue a game and add features and to extend the game than to create something new. So basically, when we hire people, we look for people that are very suitable for basically finishing and adding features to our existing games. But we weren't specifically looking for people that are great at making a new game. So that was one thing that we realized, right? So we basically had to learn how to create games again by actually making something that works properly. And it's not like the teams weren't, they could do it. It would just take long, and it was a hard battle. And they would concentrate on a lot of technical issues and not concentrate on the game and the fun and these things. And so fast forward to how our new MMORPG project came to life. I was sitting there with a friend from the company, a programmer, and I had this idea of a zombie MMO in my head for a long time already. I was like doing a niche market research and looking for, where could there be something interesting to go into. And I wanted to create, my core idea was we should go back to what we're good at. We're always trying to make new games in new genres, and then we fail because of different reasons, right? Technical reasons, gameplay reasons. But the main reason is because we're basically creating a game in a genre that we have no idea in, and we're not good at it. But we are really good at making an MMORPG and running it. So why not create something and go back to the roots and create a hardcore PvP MMORPG, because we know how to do that. We know the rules of that game. We know how to do this. Yes, there's the technical part of actually creating a new modern version of that.
Yep.
But we'll have that challenge anyway with every game. But at least we know what we're building, and everyone speaks the same language in the team. Because we've been doing that for years already. And then I had discovered that there are no zombie MMORPGs. There's lots of zombie shooters. There's games that are single player, we just run and shoot and stuff like that, but there's no actual MMORPG out there. And shortly before the pandemic hit, I was talking to my friend Tom, and I was going like, hey, I'm thinking of starting that in my spare time and just building like a proof of concept for this idea. And he went, yeah, I'm totally in, right? So we had this brilliant idea to create an MMORPG to as a 2-person team, and me not being a real programmer. Advice for anyone out there: it's a great idea, do it. It only worked because Tom was very dedicated. The pandemic hit and we had lots of time. And it was no Netflix, and instead just creating a game. And that was fun, right? So my wife would watch telly and Netflix, and I would sit at the computer and build on the game, and Tom as well. And then we'd like meet and change things and talk about it. And the whole concept was to talk as much as possible. We had no design document. We only had things in our head, and we talked them through until we both had the same understanding of what exactly we want to create. And then we started. And it took us about 1.5 years. And then we had a working prototype of the game where you could log in. There was a whole city with zombies around it. Like, the most essential core idea of the game was playable. And we showed that to the other people at the company, and they said, hey, this idea is going somewhere. Don't you want to do that in full time at the company? Now, that was a bit difficult because I was managing director at that point. So
your position changed from product manager to managing director, which honestly to me sounds very similar.
Yes, it is actually not that unsimilar. It's just in a big company, obviously, managing directors have a lot of things to do that have nothing to do with actual game development. There's a lot of HR topics. There's a lot of legal issues and things around the company. It is very far away from actual game production.
Okay.
What you do is you oversee the strategies of the different teams and basically supervise that these things sort of mount up to a company strategy.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
more strategic position.
Exactly. Very strategic. And I had switched there about so it's now 8 years since I became managing director at the company.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to make time so that I could also lead a team creating a new game. So I'm still managing director, but I only do certain tasks for that job part, which is representing the company outside. So I do industry events and things like that.
Yeah.
Politicians, which is also part of the job. I'm also in the board of the Bavarian Association for Game Developers. So there's a lot of talking involved in that part. But I actually, operationally in the company, I don't do anything as a managing director at the moment. And instead, I'm one of the lead product managers for the new MMORPG. But how we started was, and that is basically the same story again as with Tibia. So we had started this game in our attics in this case, not in the basements.
Okay.
But it was 2 people just creating something that they wanted to play themselves and said, this is cool, this is the game that we want to make, and we think other players will like it too. Then we brought it to the company and we both worked on it full time, but it was just us 2. So we were then just sitting at the company, spending 8 hours and then doing stuff at home still, right?
Yep.
And then we hired our first employee in the team, who was a programmer. and he joined us, and then we worked with
So
3
that is
people.
basically hire specifically for the new game.
Yes, exactly. Okay. So we chose someone where we said this person is going to help us, and that's perhaps worth a little detour. So I'm a great fan of finding the strengths and the weaknesses of the people on a team, and to know my own things that I can do and that I can't do. And then if I look for someone who's going to join my team, I don't just wait for the first person to shout and say, "Hi, I love your game. I want to work with you." No, we specifically look: is he going to add something of value to the team? Can he do something that we can't do, or is he better than I am? And hopefully he is. Everyone should be better than me on the team. Because I am a generalist, so everybody has to be better than me, right? If someone's not better than me in the field we're hiring him in, it's not going to work, right? So we really pay a lot of attention to that. Someone comes with the strengths to the team and can solve something in the team that we can't solve with our current resources. So it's not like we just need another programmer because progress is too slow. We then look for someone who fits a profile that we talked about before, and we say we need someone who can do that and who's good at doing this. So this guy was someone who is really fast in implementing things.
You could say like a prototyping programmer.
Yes, exactly. Which is exactly what we needed in that phase, because the idea is to create the core systems of the game to test out if they are fun. And if they are not fun, to throw them away and then try again with another idea. And if you're not willing to throw it away, you're not iterating. You're stubborn, I guess, right? And you don't want to be stubborn in game development. So you want to try out something and then realize, okay, this is not good enough. It's not working. You throw it away. And if you have something that is planned out and down and then created and then it's there's a very big reluctance and to not scrap it. Because people spent a lot of time implementing it, and they don't feel happy when you then kill it.
That makes sense.
Right? So it's in this phase especially, it's great to have someone who says, no, that's great. It's a bit sloppy anyway. It's fine, right? It's not bad, right? It's just not on the highest production level straight away, and you would have to refactor and rework it later on, and that's cool. But you get on a lot faster. And so every time we hire someone, that's what we do. And like the most important hire we had that was in the company, we got someone from another team to come over to help us with the game design. And that was because we had our core systems, and you could see that they are fun, but they weren't deep enough. They weren't complex enough for an MMORPG. They were too shallow. They only showed the faint idea of what the game was supposed to be. And so we got someone we knew was better than us to do it.
How do you test fun or how do you evaluate your ideas for something like an MMORPG? Because I guess it's not like you can just put together a prototype in a week and then test it for a couple of hours.
Exactly. That's it. It took 1.5 years to have it at that state, right? So it took 1.5 years to have the whole technology so far that you can actually test it.
Wow. And that's great. But okay, so you just invest that time up front, and then you start optimizing, start trying to make it more fun. Do you try to go through the entire progression system of the MMO every time, or which parts of the game do you test?
Yeah, so you start with the core loops. So I think that's very similar to every game actually. So you need to figure out that what your player is going to do 90% of the time, that has to be fun, and you have to be willing to, as soon as you start it, you say, I want more of this. And if you don't reach it with that core system, then your game ultimately won't be sticky enough. People won't like it. And you try yourself, obviously. So you implement it, you try it out yourself, and then you go like, okay, I like it. That's something already, right? And then you show peers, and the peers look at it, and they'll give you feedback. Then you optimize, you try it out again. And now comes the really cool thing with online games. we just put the game online. So we had a website and we just dumped the game there. And some players found it through trademark registrations that we did. And I can remember that quite well. I was lying in bed and we had a Discord server that we were using with the name of the game and with the website and everything. And you could download the game and then just log in and play on the server, basically. So that's how we were working. We were like updating the server and just playing and trying out the features of the other person, right? And so I was lying in bed and suddenly my phone starts dinging and dinging and dinging. And I'm getting lots and lots of Discord messages. So I'm going, what's on here, right? So I go to Discord and there's people joining the Discord server every 10 seconds. Someone's joining this Discord server. So I'm going like, ran over to my PC, started, logged into the game, and there were 129 people in the game online running around and playing. So that's for a lot of people, I think that's scary. But we always wanted to develop the game that way because ultimately we're building the game for a community. So it's more building a community than building a game, if you think about it, actually. Because on the long run, it's the community that's going to keep the game alive. And so the game, it has to be for them. It's not just for us. It's really, we're building it for this community and we need their feedback so that we can make it better. And Tibia came to life that way. It had so few features when it came out, and a lot of things came with collaboration with the community, with bouncing ideas, talking to people, what do they want, what don't they want, and then building the things and putting them into the game. And so our approach is very similar there. And a lot of people are afraid because they want to present the perfect polished product to the customer. And they go like, we can't ship, right? It's not possible. We can't ship, we can't release because we still need to add all these things and we need to polish this and that. And yes, that's true to a certain extent. There are people that do not like unfinished games and they don't understand it. It's the same as people that go into an empty flat and can't imagine how it could be with furniture. So you go in and you go like, this is awful, this place, this is a crap hole, right? Who could live here? And other people go in and go like, wow, so cool. I can imagine a bar in this corner and, my gaming area here, this is going to be awesome, right? And you need these people. You need these people at the beginning of a game when it's created that way with a community, because these people fill out these blanks with ideas and pass them on. And this feedback is invaluable to create something that will actually find a market. If we just build this game for 5 to 7 years and then release it with a big bang, I have no idea if anybody will like it. I just don't know, right? And that's too dangerous, in my opinion. It's not a good idea to do that. And the feedback that you get from players, it's everything. Yes, it's harsh, it's hard sometimes, it hurts. They are honest. You have to have rules on how to listen to your players and how to value the feedback of one person versus groups versus people on your team. So one of the rules we have is that just because someone is in our team and comes with feedback, it doesn't make his feedback more valuable than that of a player. He has the same status as one player.
Okay, that's crazy.
And it's tough. It's tough to hold it through, right? It's not that easy, obviously, because they have access.
There are a lot more players than developers, so you're like the players have more say in this than we do.
Yes, but that's because ultimately we don't do exactly what the player wants, because I think it's the thinking in the box problem that you have there. So the player knows the systems that he has, and he does not know what we can change and not change in the game more easily or what's more difficult. So players will come with ideas, but what you really want to find out what their problem is. And that is true for everything in the company as well. So a lot of people will come with a solution. And the first thing I usually say is, I don't care about your solution. I don't want to know what the solution is, because I don't know if it is, for what is the solution? What's the problem? All right? Describe the problem. And then we can find out if there are multiple good solutions for this problem. And a lot of people in business, they just want to push their solution. It's not about finding the best solution for the problem. It's they like this solution for whatever reason. It can be legit, right? It's not the issue. But the right way to handle it is to find out what the problem is, then to find out, do we want to fix it, or is it okay? It can be totally fine to have this problem. And if we fix it, what is the best solution? And not just to settle with the first idea. And I remember when I was younger, I learned this lesson by force. So I came to the founders, and I had a good idea for a feature for the game. And I said, like, this is the idea. I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to, impact game. It's going to, the players are going to love it. We're going to make more money with it. I think it's a really good idea. And, one of them looked at me and he said, I don't think so. On what basis is this the best idea to spend your time with? So I went like, we put time in it. We researched it. We've got these, we checked all these parameters and everything. We think it's a really good idea. And he said, yeah, next time you come with a list of 10 things, and you prove that this one is the best of those 10. Right?
That's how we make games. Yeah, that's essentially our prototyping approach.
yeah. I mean, it was an overly hard reaction to the actual thing, but it taught a valuable lesson. And the lesson was that just because I like this idea and I am convinced that this is the best solution for my problem, did I really check? Is this the best solution, or was I just in love with it? Yeah. Right? And there's nothing wrong with being in love with something, and that a lot of good things derive from passion. And a team that is passionate, you'll always feel it in the product, that they had passion when they created it versus they had to do it. But you just sit there, and the first thing you go like, you're frustrated. That's the first reaction. Obviously, you go like, I'm convinced this is the best thing. So I sat down, I thought of 10 other solutions for the problem that was there, and evaluated them, like with how long does it take to create them, programming time, design time, how high are the opportunities that we can have with it, like a risk diagram and things like that, to then find out that our first solution was in that thing also the best. And now that was evaluated by multiple people, and so on, right? So it came out that, yes, that was the first solution. So the first thought is, oh, wow, this was all insane, right? I spent all this time evaluating those other things, and now we're doing what I proposed anyway. We could have shortened that, right? But the true answer is, and if you're honest to yourself, the answer is no. We shouldn't have. We should have evaluated the other things. It was the correct thing to call, and we should have done it in the first place. We shouldn't have just gone with our guts, because that's not good enough. And I think that is when designing and making a game and taking in player feedback, you have the same thing there. So you have hundreds of opinions, hundreds of ideas, and those are only the loud people, right? So that's only people that are on your Discord or will answer to a survey. Those are the only people that you're hearing from. So what is with the 90% of people that don't bother to talk to you but are playing your game? How do you get feedback from them? And the best thing that we can do, or that we do, is we have two tools to do that. So the one is we look at data. So we record data points when players play, and then evaluate them and just look at the hard data. So
just so I get this straight, so you're essentially doing some version of what I guess you'd call early access, where the new game is already essentially playable for the community.
Yes.
And
so at the moment it's closed. Yeah, it was very open at the beginning, and then we closed it a while ago because we are planning to go early access on Steam. And now the traction of people interested in the game is getting higher and higher from day to day. We can't accommodate them all because we can't just run hundreds of servers now.
Yeah,
that's expensive, and with no money coming in, that doesn't make sense business wise. So we have 3 servers around the world, and we allow a certain amount of players to test the game now in a closed group, and we invite new players to that group from everyone who's interested every 6 weeks.
Okay, and then you collect data and feedback from the group, and that is how you make all of the important decisions about the game?
Exactly. Yes. So we always back it with data. So you can imagine it this way. It's funnel optimization is what it's called basically. So when you start the game and you create a character, we basically log an event that says this account has created a character. Then you enter the game world, and that's another event. This account has entered the game world. You've talked to the first NPC. It's another event, and it goes on and on and on like that. So we can basically have a graph where we can see where we lose players in this line, and you also have heat maps where you can see where players die and where difficulty curves go up and down. And now the complicated part is interpreting that data.
Mm-hmm.
So the way to go is that you have a thesis and you say, I think we are losing players here because of this reason, right? And then you have to prove it. So you need to make a change, then publish that change, and then watch what the next group of players, how they react to that certain part, if that's now better or worse. And you can do A/B testing with different groups and things like that. But you basically test things on the data side and see if the majority of the players choose A, B, C, D, and if that performs better or worse. But that is only the data, and the data only tells you a certain amount, and you can be very wrong with your assumptions. So you always need to look at it in different angles. So it's not just enough to look at one figure that you've got, like how many players reached this point, because I don't know why they stopped. I have no idea. It's just guessing, right? And that is where surveys come in. So you then have a survey and you really ask the people specifically. So I know you stopped here. Why? What was the reason that you stopped here? And then I get a qualified answer. And now I can have a better theory about what happened. And I can propose a feature or a change in the game that will fix it.
That's very interesting because like this entire process is so different from how we make games. We almost like we finish almost the entire game before we give it to people, and you do it almost the other way around, where you're like, okay, here's a very bare bones framework of how we want our game to look like, and now we just give it to you and you tell us what to do with it almost. And
yes, exactly.
That's super interesting.
I think that's the beauty of game development. There is no right or wrong. There's hundreds of different approaches that you can take, and all of them are valid, basically.
Yeah.
It's just with what you feel comfortable and what works well for you. And then there are a few like requirements for the game. So you've got a paid title. So people need to decide to buy the game when they look at it in the App Store. So they like the idea and they're willing to pay a certain amount of money in that moment, and then they play the game. And if they stop after one or two levels, you might never know. Yep. It's just they paid it, they bought it. You might see the next title if less people buy it, perhaps, or something like that. Yeah. But you actually don't know. Now, if your game is free, basically everyone is testing your game, and I have to convince them that it's worth paying money.
Mm.
So it's the other way around, right? It's there's no barrier to test the game. You just download it, start it, and play. And if you like what you see and you're invested in this and you say, this is cool, I like it, I'm going to support this, then you might spend money on it. But you don't have to. So there's a very, very big difference there. So in MMORPGs, if players have to pay upfront for the game, you're basically getting a selection of players that is also willed to go through a lot of pain now in the game because they paid $50. So if I pay $50 for a game and I don't understand something somewhere, hell, I'm going to find out how this thing works, right? Mm-hmm. I'm going to ask people, I'm going to look up online. I paid $50, I'm not getting back, right? So I'm going to find out how this works.
Yeah, quite different for free players. They're like, oh, exactly. I don't get it, bye.
Bye, exactly. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Logged in, didn't like the clouds. That's it, right?
Yep.
And that makes different approaches necessary. So online games, being a service, it's about how do I get new people to join the game, to play the game, and then eventually become someone who is willing to pay for the game. And this process, you have to monitor it so that you know that when you actually publish the game, you've got a chance out there. It is not even certain, even if you have good test results with your test groups and you then publish the game, it doesn't mean that you're going to be successful. It just is, it's a higher confidence level. Because the first people that are going to get your game are those that are in love with your game anyway, right? It's the same with a single player game. The people that buy it on day one, those are people that went like, hey, I love this idea. It was on my wish list. Cool, it's out. I'm going to buy it full price straight away. Right? And they play through the game and then they say, awesome, I liked it. 5 stars, sum up, whatever, right? And then you have people that go like, what? $7.99? I'll wait until it's $4.99.
Yeah, of course.
And then they buy it there, right? And then you have people that say, what, €1 is too much for this crap. There's other people that have games for free, right? Why should I pay something? And they will never pay for your game. And that is where the idea of free-to-play comes from, is, yes, you can have a game that costs money, but then you're closing it for everyone who is not willing to pay that €1 to access your game. They cannot play your game, and they might pay later on because they like it, but they would never find out because they're not willing to pay €1 at the beginning.
Yeah, so it's basically the first, essentially what you're doing with all of the other points in the game, where like, how can we optimize this to have more people stick around? You're saying
it's retention, yes.
If you just have to pay €1 at the very beginning, then that's basically one of the biggest drops in retention you can probably get.
Yes, exactly. Because there's research on that as well. So you can see how much people are willing to pay at certain stages. It's the price elasticity. So if you do economics, you learn that very early. So products have different price points, and people are willing to pay for certain things. So you could take an example. You've got a cinema ticket, and going to the cinema will cost you €15, and then you get 2 hours of entertainment in the cinema. Now, if they up the price and let's say they just double it, right? So they'll say now it's €30, and that's what you need to pay, so you can go into the cinema and look at this. You'll have a lot of people that will say, no, €30 for 2 hours of entertainment. No, that's not working for me. And they won't buy it anymore. On the other hand, you could lower the price. So you could say it's $5, right? Just go down $5 for a ticket. Now your whole cinema is booked out. Everyone goes into the cinema because they say, this is awesome, this is cheap, I'm going to go to the cinema, this is great. So there's more people there that want to have tickets than you actually have seats. That means you're losing money. It's very simple, actually, because now every seat is taken, and you could say now, wow, isn't this great, right? The cinema is booked out, so this is the maximum we can make, but it's not. It's not the maximum.
Is what you're getting at is that you can actually have an online game that is like a cinema that's too full, like with too many free players, or
no. The idea behind it is so now let's say it's full and you've got people standing outside and they can't buy a ticket anymore, right? So they can't come into the cinema and look at the movie. And now people will say, okay, but I would be willing to pay $10 or $15 or $30 to get into the cinema now, even though it's full, right? So what you do is you regulate the price to that amount, exactly that amount, that every seat is sold, but there's no one waiting outside who's willing to, there's no one waiting out there who's excluded. Now, this is a fixed price, right? So the idea behind free-to-play is, now imagine your game. So how much does your game cost when you sell it?
I think Thronefall is $12.
Right, $12. So you'll have people that will say, Jonas, I would only give you one. I'll give you $1 for this game. Now, he can't buy it. He can't give you any money, right? Not possible. There's another one who would say, hey, Jonas, I love your game. It's so cool. I will give you $50. He can't do that. He can only give you $12. And that is where the idea of free-to-play basically comes in. Every player can pay the amount that he wants to pay, from 0 to whatever. And that is how you, the ability and the wish to pay for your game is now in the hand of the player. If he likes your game really a lot, he can give you more money. If he doesn't like it, he gives you 0. And that way you can make more money because you can sell your product at different price ranges.
Yeah, I guess I have to give like maybe a small asterisk there that, of course, you can, this can also go into the manipulative side of things, especially.
Yes.
Like, especially if you do very, very heavy data-driven design and you're like, okay, does this button need to be red or does it need to be purple so that people buy more things? And
no, it should obviously be a game and be fun, right? That's the core thing, and that's why we actually even build the game before we build the monetization system into the game, because we just want to make sure the game is fun, and if the game is fun, we'll find ways to monetize it. And we also talk with the community about what we're going to monetize and if they are cool with it. So it's something that we're not afraid of. We actually even ask the price points.
That's interesting, because I guess you can't run a game like Tibia for 30 years with like a super exploitative monetization model, right?
No, and also it's a moral thing as well, right? I mean, you should have like a moral compass telling you this is okay and this is the red line we're not going to cross.
Yeah.
And there are obviously games out there and other companies that cross multiple lines and push things and do things that require regulation on law side to be stopped. And it's the way it is, right? It's the way it is. And you obviously need to know for yourself if that's something that you want to do or not. And it's not unlawful in that moment. It's basically a gray area where legally they're allowed to do it, but it's not cool, right? And I don't want to play a game like that. And I think there are easy ways to have a fair system to monetize your game that the players are okay with and that are okay for the company and the economic needs that are behind it. Because running an online game is not cheap. That's and players understand that, right? We've got servers that are running and they need to be paid. We've got traffic. We have to pay for the traffic. It's not free. It's don't know if a lot of people know this, but so if you have your internet flat rate at home, traffic is included. It's just there. It's unlimited. But on the server side, that is not the case. You have to pay for the traffic. It's not for free. And all that needs to be in consideration when you design and build an online game so that it has a chance in the market. You need to support a certain amount of players per resource that you have because it's expensive. And if you have too few players that your server is supporting, it just won't work out. The economics won't add up at the end. You will make a loss. And that's... And players understand that. They know how these things work, and you can explain it to them. You can say, look, we have to pay for the service, we have to pay for the engineering team, for the whole team creating the game and the updates and continuing the support for it. That all costs money. It's not for free. And they'll say, yes, of course, charges, right? But charges here and not there. And I think that is something that companies don't need to be afraid of to talk with their communities. They often surprise us with... So we had a situation where we added a feature and we asked the players first, is that okay? Do you think this is a good idea or a bad idea? And a lot of players said, this is a good idea. But, and then came the but, it has to be expensive. So, it's the first thing you go like, what? They're saying make it expensive, right? Well, why that, right? But the thing is that often in online games, it is like a protection fee around a service that prevents abuse of a service. And players will often say, but make it expensive so people can't abuse it to an advantage and can only use it for the purpose it actually had.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, we need to know what item it was now. This is a very interesting curiosity. Information gap was created.
So one of these features is, for instance, Tibia is a sharded game. So there are multiple game servers with own communities on them. And we introduced a service where you can move your character from one server to another server.
Okay.
And players want that to be expensive, and there's a very good reason for it. So the reason is, so Tibia is a PvP game where you can accumulate power in the game, and you can use this power in the game towards other players.
Yeah.
And what guilds would do is they would jump with their whole guild from one server to another server, and then dominate that server. And so if there's no price tag attached to it, they can just jump from one world to another and do bad things, basically. So the price tag protects all players from an abusive behavior that you could be doing with that, and limits it to, I want to move there because my friends are there, or for whatever other reason there is. Like, I don't want to be on the server anymore because I've got a bad reputation there, or whatever, right? There's enough other reasons you might want to move, but you can't use it to create situations that are harmful for a large part of the community that way.
Yeah, okay. That's really funny that you run into a situation where it's like, but make it expensive. Here's a cool idea, but please make it expensive. That's wild. I guess to complete our little story arc with the CipSoft company history, can you paint a rough picture of where are you now? Like, where? First of all, like, how's the new MMO you're developing called? How big is the team of people that's working on it now? And how does the rest of the company look like now?
Right. So the game is called Persist Online. And it's a zombie MMORPG. So it's not a shooter, it's really an MMORPG. And the team is now 14 people. So it's still very small. Now, you say wow, because it sounds big, right? But
it's like a team within the team. So
So the whole company is 110. And
I was like, I always keep forgetting, and then every time you're telling me, I'm surprised again.
Yes.
Oh God.
So the whole company is 110, and the Persist team is 14 people directly, and then graphic artists, test people. I'd say another 5 to 6 people that also work on the project in addition. So you could probably say it's roughly 20 people that work on the game. But if you know, that sounds a lot for you now, for instance. So you make games alone and with 1 or 2 other people. But altogether, if we look at who are we competing with? I'm competing with international big companies that create MMOs with 700 people working on them over a period of 7 years. And they have budgets and expectations on their games that are in multi-million-dollar regions. So their games cost multi-million dollars, 3 figures often. And they all want them to be billion-dollar games, right? But that's the competition that we're up to. So we're talking like a Funcom. You know, even if Dune is now not an MMORPG, it's more a survival game. But that game was not cheap to make. There were multiple hundred people in studios in different locations worldwide co-developing and working on this game. And we do not have that kind of resources at our company. Now, we're not doing bad. We're you know, our numbers are public. Everyone can look it up. So it's roughly 25 million euros revenue and around 10 million profit that we make per year. It's not a small company. It's a big company, a successful company. And you know, a lot of indies will go like, I would love to be in your shoes. And yes, of course, we're very happy and we're very privileged to be in this situation. And we know that, right? Especially if you look at the industry and the situation the industry is in, we do not have external investors. We do not have a publisher. We do not have a problem with interest rates going up and down and money being pulled out of the company and someone calling, you know, like you have to fire a certain amount of your people. It's all in our hands. And that gives us freedom. It gives us things that most companies in this industry do not have. But on the other hand, we're just a small company if you look at the global landscape. And the companies building MMORPGs are usually very big companies, often Tencent owned. So the big Chinese mega corp that owns like 30% of the gaming industry. And they have their fingers in a lot of online games worldwide, and the companies related to it. And that is our competition, right? And so from our perspective, it's we're fighting Goliath, and we're the small guys here, right? And obviously it's a perspective thing, right? So smaller studios and studios that are in the struggle of finding financing for their games, they'll go like, "That's awesome what you've got," right? And it is, of course, it is, right? It's as I said, it's a privilege to be in the situation, and that's something that service games create for you because you get revenue every day. It's not just one product, one sale. We sell every day, and we can calculate, because we know how much we're going to make after a very short time. We can estimate how the year's going to be, and that gives us a lot of safety. We can hire, and if we hire someone, we know that we can keep him for multiple years, and there's not going to be an issue with payment or things like that.
Yeah.
We also have a thing at our company where every employee can use 20% of his time, that's essentially a day, to create a new online game as he likes.
Okay, so you still have open doors for essentially new projects that you might want to take on.
Yes.
I think that's really cool.
Yes. So there's 22 people or 25 people now. I think it's 25 at the moment. So roughly a quarter of the company is working on their own games in this 20% basis. And every few months, they show the progress to the rest of the company. So there's like an event, and then everyone has it's like we have a big room called the Cip Loft, where there's a lot of space, and they have tables there and their computers. And then they have it's like a little show, basically, like a mini Gamescom, and they have a little sign where they say what changed since the last version, and then you can play test their games and give them feedback and tell them if you like things, don't like things, and just look what they did. And we have pizza and some drinks, and it's basically you have to show to the rest of the company what you've been working on. That's the idea behind it.
Yeah.
But there's only a very small guidance on what the games have to be. So it has to be a living online game. That's what we call it. Yeah. So there's the genre is fixed, basically. It has to be an online game. You have to have an avatar that you run around in a world. It has to be multiple 100 players possible. But other than that, it's technology open, game design open, and the idea is that, similar to how Tibia and Persist came into existence, if the people are working on a passion project that they believe in, something good can come out.
Yeah.
And the only people that can kill the project is that team.
That's right. But the
company doesn't kill it.
The company doesn't kill it, but the company has the power to maybe bring it to the next level and be
yes, exactly. The other way around, the company will only allow a production or give the team more time to work on it if they are convinced that this is going in a direction that the company thinks is good. Yeah. So you got it right. The team can pitch to the bosses of the company, to the managing directors. They can do a pitch, and in there they will explain why they think they deserve more resources to create this game on a larger scale. And the answer can be, we don't think you're that far yet, right? Just go on. The answer can also be, but you're not getting a production team yet. But you can all work 40% on it now instead of 20%.
Okay. So, okay.
So it can be steps in different directions, just based on the confidence that is there.
But essentially, what you're doing with Persist, I think, does give you a lot of confidence that it's probably going to work because you're already getting so much feedback and data. Or how's that project shaping out? Like, how far along is it?
Right now we're in pre-alpha, and pre-alpha means that most of the systems, the most important systems, are in place. They are not completely polished yet. The game's performance is not polished yet, and the look is not completely finished yet. But the systems and the whole focus is on game systems. So whatever is implemented, it's always the focus on gameplay and getting that right. So what we do is we have 3 different test groups that we work with. The first one has unlimited access. They can just play the whole time. And that is important so that we get long-term feedback on the changes we are doing, because these people also know the history of where things are coming from. The second group of people is the playtest group. They can just sign up on the website, and we randomly pick people and add them to the playtest group. And whenever we have a playtest, everyone from that group can play the game, but for a limited time.
Okay.
So it's usually 5 days. They play 5 days in one go, and the playtest, then when that happens, that's a few hundred people playing. They will then tell us if the multiplayer aspects of things are working. Give us feedback if they like things and what they don't like and what they would change in those things. But then their time is over and they can't play anymore, right? And then we have a third group that we invite to the game via marketing campaigns. So we basically have an ad, and we pretend the game is finished. We don't tell them it is in an early access. We throw them into the game, and we look when we lose them.
They don't even
right?
know it's still in production.
They can figure it out because it does say pre-alpha on multiple places. But it's not like there's a big warning sign that says this game is not finished. Beware, right?
Yeah.
But they just download the game and start playing. And we then look how far they stay in the game, survey them, and we look what we have to change to get that funnel of people to stay in the game, and what is still required before we can go into early access. So you test the whole thing. So basically you test how much money are you spending for a player that will then stay after 30 days.
Okay.
And how much does that one player cost after 30 days?
You either keep tuning the game till the equation works, or you eventually kill the game.
Yes, that's essentially what happens in live service games. Yes. So if you can't, if that equation doesn't go up, you would be burning your acquisition money. So as we said earlier, right? If you launch a game nowadays, how many games launch on Steam? Something like 12,000 a year. It's a ridiculous
100 daily, probably. Yeah.
It's a ridiculous number. So what happens if you haven't already got a community that can push you? You put out the game, and basically nothing happens. That's what most people will experience when they just put a game on there with no other related things around it. You have to be lucky if it's something else. It can happen, obviously, right? There's always exceptions where things suddenly skyrocket or something, but for the majority of games, when they do that, nothing will happen. It's the same if you put a website on the internet, nothing will happen. No one will look at your website, first of all. Basically, nothing will happen. So you need to find players, and you need to make them aware of your game. And there are different possibilities for that. So on Steam, you can obviously take part in festivals, you can have demos, these things. You can talk to curators with influencers and hope that they will talk about your game. You can use ads to make people aware of your game, and you can go to physical events and present your game there. So that there's lots of different things you can do, and at the end, you kind of need to think about which mix makes most sense for your game, and is it going to pay off? Because most of these things aren't for free. There are a few that are, but they are also more luck-driven. What's going to happen then? And others are they just cost money. And so if I go to Gamescom, and I don't know, like an indie booth will cost you $5,000, something like that. How many wish lists are you going to get if your game is not ready yet, or how many sales are you going to get from that, right? And it could be cheaper to have ads.
Interesting. The most interesting thing about this whole rant of you there is, once again, how different it is from my perspective, because my perspective has, as an indie game developer, slowly shifted to, like, any advertisement is basically not worth it compared to the visibility that you can get directly from Steam. It's like there are two things as an indie game developer, two sources of traffic that are relevant for indie game developers. One is just Steam, and the other one is content creators on YouTube and Twitch. And everything else essentially doesn't matter, like, at all.
So that's true for a paid title.
Yeah.
But that's the big difference. So Steam is a platform that is driven by revenue. So games that perform well revenue-wise will become more traffic from the algorithm. If you have a free-to-play title, you're not making revenue. So the algorithm does not give you users.
But does Steam not get a percentage of your share from stuff you sell in the game?
Only if you sell something, right? Over the Steam client. So it has to be in the Steam client. But now the thing is that our game is in wishlist right now, but it's a free-to-play title. So Steam only has you in the free-to-play carousel. That's the place where you are. And that is not the most visible place on the Steam platform.
That's right.
Also, most of the events, festivals, or things that Valve has are connected to sales. So you gain visibility by reducing your price for 15% for the time of the festival. And that is how Valve will give you more traffic and traction. But if your game costs $0, you can't do that.
That's right. Do you think Steam is not that great of a platform for online services, or what's your general take on that?
Yes, and it makes sense from their perspective. I mean, we could have a long talk about Steam being a monopoly or not. Technically, jurisdictionally speaking, they are not, because it's they do not hold the platform. So if you look at Apple or Google, they have Android and they have iOS, and they gatekeep it, and they have their store, and you couldn't do anything else. And obviously, Valve with Steam is dominant on the PC market, but there's also the Epic Game Store, there's GOG, and anybody could open up a new store. Anybody could. Is it realistic? No. I mean, we can all see how Epic is struggling to compete, and they have to invest a lot of money to compete. So Valve, the feeling they have a monopoly. By law, it's probably not. But it doesn't change a thing for the developers, obviously. And Valve takes a large chunk of the money. And in my opinion, the amount they take is not what they are offering anymore, price-wise, if you look at where we are nowadays. It used to be okay in the beginning of the platform, where the platform was at that time and how the market looked at that time. But if you look at how the world works now, how payment works now, how download works now, I mean, Epic has a very good point and they're very transparent about how much the store actually costs them. You can look it up because they'll tell you the whole operating the store is 6%. That's what they need to charge to operate the store, the payments, the whole thing. And then they have a surplus, which is, I believe, 5% on top, or depending on what engine you use, right? That's their profit margin. So we're coming somewhere at 12 to 15% here. And Valve takes double of that. So their profit margin is near 25% of your game. And yes, they have the customers there, right? But on the other hand, Valve also, as all store holders try to do, takes the customer away from you. I'll give you a nice example. People can wishlist your game, right? So people are on the Valve on the Steam site, and they can press this button and say, "Hey, I'm interested in this game. I think this is cool. Inform me about it." You cannot talk with these people. You do not know who these customers are. You have no email address. Valve has it. Valve restricts you on how you can communicate with these people. And that is limited in this case to you release your game and they get a notification. But there's no real other way that you can talk to your customers. And
what you're talking about is sort of the concept of community ownership, right? And
that's Apple does the same, basically, right? So it even goes so far that if a customer retreats from the payment he did, so he gives back the game or he chargebacks it, so he actually has a fraudulent action on his credit card, for instance, you will never know. They will just block him and take away the game from him, perhaps, or not. We don't know. They will not prevent him from buying another game from you, which is something you might want to do, right? So basically someone bought your game, played it, and then chargebacks it on its credit card. So not only don't you get the money, but you actually even have to pay a fee. You actually even get a damage on it in addition, right? It's not for free. So you pay the transaction fee and you also pay the chargeback fee, which is deducted from the money that Valve is paying out to you. That's just gone. You just don't see it. It's the payout just gets smaller.
Yeah, I see those points. I guess the problem is that, as you mentioned, all of the players are on Steam. So as a developer, you don't really have a choice. And also, I guess if I could decide if I want to live in a world with or without Steam, I would still take the one with Steam.
I would definitely like a world with Steam as well, right? I love Steam as a gamer as well. I adopted it very early on, and I loved the whole concept behind it. But on the other hand, they do things that are contradicting European law. And there are multiple law cases against Valve in multiple countries around the world regarding these things. So there are a few points where I also can understand it business-wise why these things happen, right? But on other things, they just are protecting their profit margin, which is very, very high, as everyone knows. So Valve is one of the most profitable companies in the world. If you look at how much money one employee is making per year. But there's no way around Steam. And that is reality for game creators. And it also has advantages, obviously, right? If you make it on Steam, it can become enormous because there's so many players there that if only a percentage of them thinks your game is cool, you're going to sell hundreds, thousands of units. And where else are you going to get that?
That's exactly what I was trying to say. That's like in a universe without something like Steam's, like all of my games would have done way worse. So
yeah, definitely.
And that makes it very difficult to be like, the share they're taking is unfair and so on. It's like, yeah, I guess so, but I'll take it.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's the usual problem that you always have with a platform holder, and that's so Valve also produces games themselves. So they're a competitor.
Yeah.
But Valve can see more data about your game than you.
Yeah.
They know more about your game and how players are using it than you. And if you look back in the history, the last games that Valve actually created themselves, that was a long time ago. And what they were doing is they were buying mods and other games and running them. And the reason why they were so successful with it is they had all the data. They knew which mods were working. They could see which ones had good retention rates. Which they had a very unfair market advantage with looking at all of this data. And just lately, they had a game, a new game, and they were testing it, and they had a secret Steam page. Can you create a secret Steam page, right? Can you have 100,000 players playing your game before you even have a page that is visible? Right, and that is where those are things I do not like. They are taking advantage of their market situation, and that is what someone with a monopoly does. And that's not cool, right? And I think they do need to be regulated, and they need to abide to some laws and rules of fairness that they will not do on their own, and they need to be forced to it. But altogether, Steam is a great thing. And it has a reason. It is the number one, and all the gamers are there, including me, right? And you.
Gamers like it because they're gamer friendly. That's essentially
absolutely. And also, I'm also one of these people that wants to have all their games in that one place. I don't want to have another launcher and another
nobody liked that area where every game had its own launcher.
Yes, exactly.
I guess the concluding question to this whole topic is what's your Steam strategy for the new game?
So it is going to be on Steam, obviously. As we're collecting the wish list there, and we're going to launch on Steam, and we're going to go mostly all in on Steam. We will also be on our own website, where we will distribute it ourselves, and later on we're also going to go on Epic Game Store, but that's just like a completion thing. The numbers are so clearly in favor with Steam. Epic is just so much less. But it's still worth it. It's not a big effort to do it. So why not? But no, it's Steam, and for Steam, it's so the next phase that we're aiming at is that currently all our playtesting are via our website. So it's just download the client and play during that phase, and everything is managed on our side. And the next thing I really want to do is I want to push the Steam client and use the Steam testing features and have tests over Steam itself to try out things there. That's one of the next things I want to do that are Steam related. We implemented the SDK a long time ago already, but we haven't got any of the features in yet. So no achievements, and all those things, right? We've built it in a way that we don't force the players to choose which kind of login they will need. So you can have an account and you can link it to a Steam login or to an Epic login or any other Open Authenticate login, basically.
Oh, that's very nice.
Because there are some solutions out there. So, for instance, Epic Online Services, if you use that as a game developer, which sounds great first, but it actually forces your customers to create an Epic account so that they can log in Steam.
Great.
Which, exactly, right? So
Yeah.
as a gamer, you go like, really?
Yeah.
But I've got a Steam account, right? Why do I need an Epic account so I can log in with my Steam account?
No. If you're logged into your Steam account, you just want to hit play and not log in again.
Exactly. No. Yes. So there are a few things there. And what will happen is at some phase, we're going to switch to early access with the game. And we're not totally sure how we're going to do that yet. We're talking with the players. What would be a good thing? A lot of them are suggesting that we actually have founder packages to limit the amount of players that can access the game in first place.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of early access to switch to free to play completely. So the idea behind that is that players can basically buy a package like for $20 or whatever. And that gives them access to the whole early access phase of the game. But you keep out the people that just want to peek in, look at it, perhaps give you a bad review or not, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But are not really invested into the game. And that helps you to have a strong community that likes your game when you open it up for everybody.
Interesting. So, but that's basically, you're not price gating it as a quick money grab, but specifically to do the opposite, to keep players out that you don't want in the game yet. Once again, one of those weird scenarios where players are like, please make it expensive.
Yes, exactly. And it's also that, if you what you get then is people that are more engaged with your game, because these people are willing to pay $20 for a game that is still in development, and that's what we're talking about in early access. I mean, there are a lot of games that are highly polished. So if you look at Enshrouded, when they went into early access, that was production level ready. But our game won't be. Our game won't be at that polished state. It will be an early access title. It means we will be throwing out systems. Systems might be clunky still, and so on. Because we actually believe in that we have to do these steps together with the community to create something that is interesting. And that is not for everybody, right? And if that would be free in this phase, people that are not invested into the game and the idea of collaborating in this phase, they would not value what they see. They would be more angry and pissed that something is not working, and other games are at that level, so why not yours? And these things, right? So I think it's more important to gatekeep your community in this case, and at the end, you're not talking about big amounts of money. $20 for a phase that you can play in a service game for half a year or year, and then afterwards that is completely reset when the launch happens. So you don't lose that. You get the same amount of value on launch plus extras. So what you're actually doing is you're buying into a early access phase with a starting advantage later on. You're actually only buying access to the game. That's what you're doing.
Yeah, okay, I see. Interesting. Sounds like a reasonable plan.
Yeah, but we haven't decided on it yet. So there's a lot of discussions around that yet. But it's like the proposal from the community goes into this direction so far. And I can see why. I understand the why. On the other hand, you limit the game and the amount of people that can come in, obviously. We talked about earlier, right? So there might be people that say, I don't want to pay $20.
And there might also be people who pay $20 and then are like, oh, this was not worth it.
Exactly. That can happen as well. Of course. Yeah, of course. Right. And so there's a lot of expectation management that you need to do there. And I mean, it's the same for you, right? When you find the price point for your game and you say, how much is it worth? Right? How much is Thronefall worth? There's different ways to find that out. And actually, there is even a economic scientific way to find that price point, which is quite interesting. So we were also, with our pricing in the last 30 years, it was more like a guts feeling. And we'd perhaps still look at currency exchange rates and inflation rates in different countries and how much are competitors charging for a title. Which is all interesting, but not really a scientific method to find your price point and what is your best price point. And there's actually a technique where you can survey people And you can then find out from questions that you ask what the most likely price point is where people will be paying, what they are willing to pay for your product. And then you can set it. And that will basically, it's a demand and availability issue when how much you're going to make on that price point. And
how is this method called exactly, or where can we research it?
I'll have to look it up. I'll send it to you.
Okay. So but the general idea is that you survey people. Basically,
yes.
the idea is a fancy version of just ask the people and then you do some.
Yeah, not quite, because it includes so just asking, that wouldn't work, because people don't give you they'd have to give you the correct answer. So you would have to ask like stepwise, right? You would have to ask 100 people and say, would you pay $5.99? Would you pay 10 euros? Would you pay 15 euros? Would you pay 20 euros? And then you would get a curve, right? Where people would say yes, no, whatever, right?
And then you have to see where you have to multiply the number of people by the price.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's basic economics classes where you have these things, and but the technique is, it does more than that. I will look it up and send it to you.
Perfect. I'll put a link somewhere. Exactly.
Yeah.
Now that we've sort of completed this main story arc, I would love to ask at least a couple of questions for maybe advice you would give to developers who want to make their own online games, because I think that's certainly very interesting. I think a lot of developers are super interested in making online games. Honestly, myself included. So I'm also pretty much asking for myself. Like Paul and I, we're looking into making an online game next. Let's say you're a small indie team and you want to make an online game. Where should you start, or what advice would you give in general?
Right. So first of all, it's probably a good idea that is not your first game that you're trying to complete. Mainly because creating games is difficult. It's not an easy task to begin with anyway. And a single player game is easier to create than a multiplayer game or an online game. And so the first thing that you create as a team should be something in a scope that you can manage, that you can handle, and that the knowledge of the team, it's appropriate. So if you've never done network coding and looked at that at all, and then your first project is an online game, most likely not the best idea. And I'd start with a regular single player game that I can finish and gather experience of how to actually build a game. But when you've done that and you say, no, we want to make an online game now, right? This is something that we want to do. It's cool, and we're interested in it. First of all, there are multiple concepts for multiplayer and online games. The most important difference would be, is it a session-based game or is it a persistent game? And that has very big implications on what you're building and how you're going to build it.
I guess for us, the thought is that the easiest way to get into it is to make a session-based co-op game, because that would probably limit the problems of cheating a little bit, because it's like you're not, at the very least, not playing against other players, and then not having any persistent data between matches, or only having the persistent data stored locally makes it so that we don't have to host any massive databases or something.
Yeah, exactly. So that is also a very, very important consideration, is how much infrastructure does which solution require. And so as soon as you've got a persistent game, you have a lot of advantages. The disadvantage is that you're hosting all the servers. And basically everyone is going to be playing on your service, and you need that monster infrastructure with everything around it so that you can host these players. The advantage of session-based games is obviously you can have like 2 players just connecting with their clients, right? And playing together. The disadvantage is there's no way of preventing them to cheat. There's also a big problem if that is the core of the game. And the problem that you get is you will need a meta progression over it, so people play for a long time, right? So that's how all multiplayer games, session-based games, basically work. So you have a core session that is something where you do something cool, like play Fortnite, right? You run around and shoot each other. And then you earn some kind of point, and you can spend that in the progression. That is what you keep. So I earn something in this session, and then I can spend it in my progression outside of that session in the metagame.
I mean, you don't need that necessarily, but I guess 90% of games would do that so that players stay interested for a longer.
Now, if that is the core loop of the game and there is no other way to play the game, you get the following problem. You're Jonas and I'm me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you start the game and I start the game. And you are advanced in the game already. So you are level 40, whatever, right? So you're very advanced already. You have a high progression and perhaps a higher power level or whatever. At least you know the game better than me. And I'm a new player and I'm starting the game. Now, what you need is matchmaking. So I'm looking for someone to play with because I do not have friends. I'm a poor guy. I have no friends. I need someone to play with. So you're now matchmaking me. Now, the more players you require for one session, the worse this problem gets. So now it's just us two, right? You're looking and I am looking. And we're looking at exactly the same time and we're both in Germany. That's good. So we can now be matched. But you know the game much better than me. You're going to win this session against me. Unless it's co-op, right? Whatever. But most of the games are more competitive. So there's a winner and a loser. And so this means I'm going to lose this session. You're going to win this session. And everybody knows it, right? So that matchmaking is not good. So the matchmaking will be changed and you're going to look for a new player, right? And now you have the problem. I press the button and say start game. And now there's a timer running. It goes 10 seconds, 15 seconds, and it's still looking for another player. The problem is you always need another player now, exactly now, who's also looking for a game so I can match these two people. And they need to be in the same region because otherwise it will not work with ping rates and things like that over the internet. So, and now they start the session and now it depends how long is the session. So you'll see where I'm getting with the problem now. Let's say the session is an hour and you play this game for 1 hour. Now, these two people from your community are not available for matchmaking for 1 hour. So anybody else who's now pressing the button and saying, I'd like to play, there's 2 players less in the pool that are possible. So you need a lot of people online at the same time looking for a match so that you can find someone to play with. That is the main issue with this type of game. And the shorter the session, the better it gets for this. That's why a lot of these mobile games have 5-minute sessions.
Yep.
So if you look at the Supercell games, they're all limited in, basically they have a forced end.
Yep.
And that is because otherwise this pool, it gets worse and worse, the problem. So it segments even more with players, higher levels and leagues and all these things. And you need a ton of people to make it fly, and you need a ton of people to test it. So just to test that during a time period of 1 hour, everybody can find someone to make a match. You'll have to invite more than 10,000 people so that you can press a button and there's going to be one other person there that will play with you. And that showcases the problem a bit, right? So these games need to be big. They need to attract a lot of people at the same time, and the session times need to be short so that the matchmaking queue works. It's obviously something different if you just have, co-op. So you have a single player core, and then you say, optionally, I can play with a buddy. I can invite him. Then I'll just call him and say, hey, turn on your PC, log in now. We're playing together.
I guess
no problem there.
That's the easiest way to start with online,
yes,
I would say.
Exactly.
Right?
That's definitely the easiest way. As soon as you go into the session thing, you have the problem that you need so many players to make it work, and testing is expensive, and so the user acquisition also is expensive because you need so many players there. Otherwise, what happens is I press the button, and after 1 or 2 minutes, I say, no one here, and I delete the game.
Yeah,
that's what's going to happen. People say it's dead. No one's playing.
Matchmaking is very difficult, and you need a lot of players to make it work.
Exactly.
There's something I want to ask you, and that is, do you think intentionally going for the more difficult to make games is worth it in the way that you sort of have a natural mode because it is so difficult? There are less games with like really good matchmaking. There are less. For example, I would also say MMORPGs are notoriously difficult to make, and a lot of developers are not brave enough to make them. Do you think there's also an advantage in the way that there are fewer of these games, or?
No.
No.
No, there's still sadly there's still enough.
Okay.
It's highly competitive.
Wow.
It's still what happens is so it's exponentially more expensive to make than a single player game. So it's not just that you add this. There's a lot more things you need to make sure are there and were working for a real online game, right? So if you make this session-based game or you make a persistent game world, which is easier if you consider it. So a persistent game world, the game world is always running and all players log into that world. So you can play there alone while you're there and everyone else can join you. The more fun, right? But you don't have a matchmaking issue.
Yeah.
That's why a persistent online game, it can run with few players.
Interesting.
While a session-based game, it always requires more players, and the problem multiplies the more players you're going to have in one session. So 1 versus 1, easier. 2 versus 2, it quadruples. So it's not linear. It makes it worse, a lot worse. So those are the elemental differences already. And you need to consider what you're going to do and how you're going to solve the disadvantages that come with that decision when you make the game. So we did a lot of session-based games that failed. And they usually failed because of that scaling issue, because it is really difficult to get the matchmaking working worldwide for a game like that. Because you need gamers in every region, and in every region you need a lot of gamers so that they don't have to wait. You can do some tricks, right? So you can add like bots if you don't find someone and things like that. But ultimately, it comes with difficulties in that area. And another thing where they have a disadvantage is to make the game secure and prevent online cheating in that game. It's much more difficult to solve the issue if you do not have a server that is in control. So in online gaming, what we always say is if you give the client out to your customer, you're giving it to the enemy, right? So the game is in the enemy's hand.
So it's like everything that can be changed,
will be changed.
Will be changed. Like they're in full control of everything that happens on their machine.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you don't have a server, and the protocol is basically that, I'm sending if I hit you in the game or not, and the client decides if it's true or not, I can send whatever I want.
Yeah.
And they will. That's what's going to happen, right? So it's a lot more difficult to make sure that there's no cheating in a session-based game versus a server-based game. Because if multiple clients are basically just connecting without a server with each other, right? So it's just peer-to-peer based, actually. It's very difficult to make sure there's no cheating there. And if a game is successful, they will cheat. It just will happen. It's basically a law.
Of course.
And so the main mindset is yes, everything you give to the client in the client is in the enemy's hand, and it will be used to break the game and to abuse something in the game. The other thing is that when you start making a game like that, you should think about the system architecture well before you start coding. With a single player game, you can often just start with the core loop, for instance, right? So you just start with something that you think is interesting and you're going to try it out and you can start playing. Now, for a multiplayer game, you need the basic infrastructure. You need to log in into the session or into the persistent game world. You need to be able to run around before you can implement the first feature of the core loop. So you have to build infrastructure before you can actually do something. And that's what you have to start with that. So you have to start with, you can still prototype the core gameplay that you want in a single player gamey thing, right? And try out if it's fun before you do the expensive part. But once you start building the game, you have to start with the basics that you can actually log into something and play with each other. Later you add it, the more difficult it will be. So you have to start with that basic technology. And I think the biggest mindset difference is if you build a single player game, performance and anything that is happening, it's limited to one person and one computer. And as soon as you have an online game, this is not the case anymore. It multiplies with scale. So problems that you do not have in your code when you have one person, two people, a few people playing, it changes when you have 100, 500, or 1,000 people. Your code has to be efficient, and you have to think in that way when you write it already. So you always have to think, what will happen if I put a number in there with 1 million?
Yeah. So what I get from all of this is that it is very, very difficult to make online games.
No, it's not. It's just a different task. And as with a single player game, when you start out, you need to try out things. You need to practice first. So the first games that you made, they were definitely different and not as polished as your games are now. And that's because you know more about game development, you know more about programming languages and the engines and all those things that you're using. And I'd say your games do not push the engine to its limit. With an online game, you are often on the limit of technology, and you need to push yourself there to reach that bit. So, for instance, it's probably a good idea to start with a top-down game. Because the top-down game, it limits the performance issues you can have. Now, if you imagine you have a single-player game, you are in total control of performance. There's no one else that can interfere, because you can make sure that never more than X units are on the screen, X effects are on the screen, and so on. In an online game, let's say you have 1,000 players, they can all move to the same spot and use a spell with a graphical effect at the same time. And that will crash your server. And so those are these edge cases and these scale things that you need to think of while you do it. Now, if you play these kinds of games and you build these kinds of games over a long time, you get this mindset. So in our team, it's, someone comes up with an idea. Our first reaction is, how can I break it? Right? It sounds destructive. And I'm pretty sure that you do not think that way. So if you talk with colleagues about, going to add this feature, you're probably going to be talking about the positive things that it could bring to the game. Online game is always, what can I destroy with this feature? What can I abuse with this feature, right? Because if it fails this test, it cannot be in the game. It's just not possible. I'll give you a very nice example. That's a very easy one, okay? So in online games, you can usually create a character, right? So imagine you're playing an MMORPG and you create your character, and the developer is really kind, and he gives you a weapon, and he gives you ammunition, and he gives you a healing kit, right? You get that with character creation. It's for free, okay? Now, in most of these games, you can create multiple characters. So what players will do is they will create a character, take the items out, put them in their inventory, delete the character, create a new character. And they'll just continue with that. And now, if these things are worth something in the game, they can make a fortune. So all these items have to be, you can't sell them, you can't trade them. If you destroy them, you won't get anything of worth for them. They are basically empty shells. If that's not the case, the players will abuse it.
You have to think of all of the exploits. I guess the question I was getting at is, if it's so exponentially, or if it's just more difficult to make online games, and quite significantly so, then why is it still worth it? Why do so many people still do it?
It's worth it because of the reason why our company is thriving, and the reason is the regular rhythm for game development companies is they go out, they talk with the publisher, they pitch their idea for a project, a game. The publisher will say, yeah, great idea, we'll fund it. Publishers only make sense if they fund the game. Otherwise, you do not need a publisher. So if you have money to make your game, a publisher doesn't make sense. Now, the publisher funds your game. You create the game. The publisher publishes the game and sells it, takes his share, and gives you some money, right? Now, this has to be enough money so that your studio can create the next game. And that is where most studios break. So imagine you create a game and it will cost you $5 million to create, and it only sells for $9 million. It's a success, right?
Yeah.
No, it's not, because your next game can now only cost 4. And that's the issue that you have. You have to make enough money to create the next game. And ideally, you have some money that you can put aside as well, right?
Yeah, I guess
and,
you're right.
and that is the situation that most of the other game studios are in, is that they cannot fund game development themselves. They need the money from the publisher. The publisher takes a big share, and the payout is not enough to create the next title. And
so like the infinite funding loop,
exactly. And that kills you as soon as one of your games does not perform as intended or overperform, which is easily happened.
Yeah.
And so that is the issue. Now, why is the Holy Grail a service game then? Because if you manage to create a service game, which is difficult, it's difficult to pull off. But if you manage it, first of all, there's a lot more money in it, because you're talking about years that you're getting money from that one title, right? So when you publish a game, you'll have a spike in the first week of sale, perhaps 2 days, and then it goes sharp down. And then every time you have a sale on Steam, you'll get a little bump that goes up and down. But basically, it's a dead line after that, and you're not making many sales. So the most revenue you'll make on the title is in this first week.
That is correct. I can confirm.
Right. And that is a big issue, because basically after 2 days, you know if you're going to be bankrupt or not as a studio. It's tough, right? So you've worked 4 years, 5 years on this game, you put it out, and after 2 days, you know that you're not going to make enough money. It's not going to pay off. Or yes, it's going to pay off. It's going to make roughly that amount. But you're not going to make more money out of this title anymore. You can bring out a few DLCs, whatever, right? But it's not going to pay the money you need to pay your team and to create the next title. Now, with an online game, a service game, to be precise, if it works, you are getting money every day. Every day somebody is paying, and this money is coming to you as a company. So you have a cash flow every day, and for years to come. So do you
think this is something that can be realistically achieved by small indie teams today? That they maybe start something and then grow into a bigger studio similar to what CipSoft did?
Yes, definitely. It's definitely possible. It's not like it's never been easier to create things like this, right? It's never been easier to create games. Even if you can't program, you can create games nowadays, right? I mean, you can use ChatGPT and whatever, and vibe yourself to a game. It's possible now, and
it is possible, yeah.
Yes,
if it's a good idea,
that's the best way. I know, sure. It's not easy. It's frustrating as well. Yeah, you're not going to learn very much.
I guess. Yeah, it's definitely getting easier. That's right. So you would obviously say that also applies to online games, like
yes.
For example, there are like third-party solutions that try to build frameworks specifically for online games, like Photon, and I'm not sure if you've heard of Space-Time DB is an interesting one that I also saw recently.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea, but you have to tailor your game to the tech.
Yeah,
and I think this is the biggest difference to a single-player game. The single-player game, whatever you're going to do, it's just limited by the performance prospects of the engine. So the engine will tell you, that this game idea that you're doing is not going to work. Yeah. I think the biggest mistake people will do there is too many features and a too expensive production. So basically aiming too high for what the team can do. So if you would have said Thronefall, super realistic graphics, HDRP, realistic water flow across, lighting, everything has to be 3D modeled and animated, that game would have cost a lot more. It would have been really expensive to make. But the team has to make a choice in their scope, what they can do themselves, what they can manage. And there's no problem in making an online game with stylized graphics that you can create yourself easily. The performance is not a big issue there if you go top down, right? You can handle a lot of things more easy, but you need to choose your battles more carefully than in a single player game.
Yeah. So I guess the game plan is to really dial down your scope on almost everything else, because you already know that making something multiplayer networked is gonna take up a lot of your time.
Yes, exactly.
But I guess the challenge then is to, on top of that, make a game, because you have to reduce the scope down so much to even make it possible to make the game. The challenge is then to find something that engages players for a long time, despite the scope.
Despite that you're scaling down on the scope. I mean, the thing is that if it's successful, you can always add on later, because it's not over. The production just starts then.
That's right.
It's never ending, right? So there's also a lot of other things. So if you look at performance, right? If you have a single player game, you could create a really nice 3D game running around, and you can have cloth simulation on, and it looks awesome. Mm-hmm. It's lovely, isn't it? It's brilliant. But now you have 100 players running around in front of you on the screen, and all of them have cloth simulation on. It's not going to work, right? It just won't work. Yeah. So the maximum is that your character has cloth simulation on. And that is one reason why a lot of online games look worse than single-player games do, because they have to push so much more technology-wise. But the player, they don't care, right? Yeah. They're not going to sit there and say, hey, wow, it's because because of these technological reasons. They'll just say it looks crap compared to. Yeah. And that's fair, that's fine, right? And it's your job as a developer to find a solution for that issue, for that problem.
The indie way to solve this is to just stylize the heck out of it.
Exactly. and that is a very good idea. And that's what I meant, right? Yeah. When we started out creating Persist, we also sat down and, we said, how are we going to handle this? This is a persistent game world. This is very large. We want to create a game where you can enter every building, every room, everything is propped. And there's cities in the game. Yeah. And it's 50 square kilometers. Great idea, wow. 2 people. So how are you going to prop all of this, right? Now, the solution is that you do not have high-resolution graphics. Because if I have a stylized look, first of all, we can learn Blender so far that we can create these things ourselves. So even if there's not an artist there, I can create it myself, and it's good enough. That's one. Number 2, let's say I decorate a room. I put a bed in it, I put a shelf in it. I do not need many things in a stylized look to give the room an identity. At the end, I can place 1 or 2 interesting objects, and they will tell a story in the room. But if I do this in high definition, the room will look empty. You'll just come in and go like, empty room, bottle here, book here, boring, next room, right? So you need to add more and more details, which makes it more and more expensive. And I think one of the biggest mistakes people make generally in game design or in game development is that they are blinded by AAA titles and they want to create that look. And the engines allow you to do it. You can take an Unreal, create a metahuman, it looks awesome. It's great. And you've got this rendered real texture, whatever, landscape that looks photorealistic. Great. You can run around and it looks like a AAA title in that moment. But you can't add anything, because adding things to this system is so expensive that you will not be able to pay the cost as an indie team. And as soon as you then leave MetaHuman and have to create something outside of it, your team won't have the capability of doing it because you've never done it, and it's really difficult. It's AAA level stuff. And the next thing, and I know that you're a big fan of that, your game needs to stand out. There's so many games out there, and when people look at your game and they look at the screenshot, they're not allowed to say, I don't know which game it is.
Yeah.
That's a really bad idea. So if I use MetaHuman for everything in my game, it's just another Unreal game. And they all look the same.
And then I guess in particular for online games, because
yes, a lot of them are fantasy stylized. Yeah, they have a very specific look. And that is also a reason why we decided to take another approach when we did Persist. So Persist has a distinctive enough look that when you look at it, you don't get an association with another game once you look at the screenshot. You'll go like, okay, I can see zombies, I can see it stylized, but it has a mix of mid poly and low poly mixed into the game basically, and we make sure that it is not a screenshot that you'll get mixed up with any other game.
There are so many more things I would like to ask you, but I think at this point the solution is just to bring you back at some point.
And to not feature creep.
Exactly. Are there any final words from your side or anything you would like to shout out?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It was really fun. It's always fun talking to you about games, and it's the only thing that you can do in this craft is to constantly learn and to look at new things and how they work, and to question yourself and your game and everything. And that's how you make progress. For people out there that are creating a game or starting with game development or thinking of, taking the next step there, I think what we talked about earlier is to have clarity about if this is going to be a hobby, or if this is something where you say, I want it to be a business, and then treat it that way. Or if you're happy with it just being a hobby, be a hobby, right? A great hobby. There's nothing nicer than creating games and having fun with that. But it's a different thing making money with it and living of it. And there's a lot of downsides in this business. It's a very fast business. It's a very competitive business. It's also a very friendly industry.
For sure.
I've never met any industry where people are so open to each other, and there's no trade secrets or things like that. Actually, everyone talks about everything because everyone also knows that at the end of the day, you have to create the game yourself. There's a nice analogy that a project never wants to finish. It will always stand up against you, and you can push that point further back, but it will always require that last push to finish it. And So just do the push. Hopefully this was entertaining and some useful advice or ideas in there for everyone listening. And if you want to check out our game or Jonas's games, which are great as well.
Is there a Steam page for Persist already?
Yes, that's there already, and awesome. You can wishlist the game, and you can also sign up for playtests.
That's awesome. I guess that'll be the first link in the description then.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Thanks so much again for taking the time. This was a Game Dev Podcast with your host, Jonas Tyroller, and today with Benjamin Zuckerer from Cip Soft. I hope you enjoyed the conversation, and I'll see you in the next one.